Welcome to Let's Get Writing. I'm your host, Kathryn Taylor. This show is all about the stories behind the stories, and today it's going to be about the stories behind a play. My guest is a well-loved actor, director, writer, artist, and she's known very well to audiences in Grand Falls-Windsor and across the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Join me in welcoming Shirley Morrow to Let's Get Writing. Welcome, Shirley.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, and we go back a long way, Shirley.
Too far to mention on camera.
Yeah, high school, but
Yes.
we always had a love of theater, and still here we are. And you have a very exciting time coming up. You've written plays in the past, but this particular one is going to the Provincial Drama Festival. And
It is
it
indeed.
is, yes. It's called Jam, Toast, and Orgasms. I have to get this out of the way. Because tell me about the show, and that's a very interesting title.
Yes, and it's not jam, toast, and oranges. But yeah, it is. It's a really interesting and unique title. It is the very first title, the very first scene that I wrote in the play was a scene called Jam, Toast, and Orgasms, which was essentially where the story of the play comes from. It's two friends sitting up very late at night, drinking way too much wine and giggling and having jam and toast because they get the munchies, and they end up talking about orgasms, of course. And that was the start of writing this story, which is essentially a story of friendship and betrayal and forgiveness and redemption. There's so much more to this story than this cheeky kind of title. But at the same time, having written it and finished the story, there was never ever anything else that quite suited it just as much as the title that I started with. So here we are producing it 20 odd years later, because I originally wrote this script in early 2001, but didn't do anything with it, just wrote it and shelved it. We had workshopped it at Theatre Newfoundland Labrador in 2004, and they quite enjoyed it and gave me some feedback, which, you know, when I went back to writing, I did take that into account. But yeah, the title was always one of those debatable things.
Well, I think your gut tells you what's right. And as the writer, you have a feel for what resonates for you, what feels right. So I say it's a great title. I agree.
Go for it.
Go for it. But what you mentioned, that you first wrote this in the around early 2000s. And I think it's nice for people to know that sometimes productions and plays and books start and they take a period of time to be completed.
Yeah.
It's encouraging to people who are writing not to just abandon work that was previous work, because if we're thinking of universal themes and nature of people, it's eternal. There's no time limit.
There is no time limit. And it's interesting because when I initially wrote it, I was very keen to develop it and work it and do something with it. And at the time, it just didn't happen. And, you know, I was working full-time day jobs. I've been with Queen Street Dinner Theatre for 15 seasons, so there was a lot on my plate and a lot to do besides this little novel play that I had written about friendship, that, you know, it wasn't related to anything I was doing at the time. So it just sort of sat there, and eventually I thought, you know, I've produced a lot of other work since then. I've changed and grown as an artist. I've got 20 odd years of writing and producing my work. So the time had come when I thought, why don't I revisit something that I had abandoned and take it out and see whether or not, and of course 20 years is a long span, so a lot of things have changed in the way we look at stories, the way we watch theater. It's all changed. So it's kind of fun to take it out now, and I'd like to do it before it's too late. You know, you gotta sometimes say, okay, there's a project that I never finished, I need to do it.
Nice. So part of the process of needing to do that, you brought the play to Northcliffe and you workshopped it again. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, okay, so initially we sat around and just read the entire script. I didn't tell them at first any of the key things that we had discussed with Theatre Newfoundland and Labrador in that initial workshop, because I wanted to see if they would come up with the same sort of concepts or ideas. And they did for many of them. And the ones that they didn't, I brought up myself and said, what about this? What about this? And so we had great discussion. They really liked the play, and they gave me some wonderful feedback. And so I said, okay, now I'll go back to it. So I went back to the script. This was a couple of winters ago, and I went back to the script and did some more work on it, incorporated some of the things that I had talked to the cast at TNL with, and some of the things that I talked to Northcliffe with. And then I brought it back to them again. So we read it and workshopped it a couple of times. I took all of their feedback. It's a very collaborative process. It may be my story. It may be something that I initially generated and created. It is fictional, by the way. It's all fictional, but just based on, as you know, as a writer, you kind of write about what you know or what you feel. So there's a lot of me in there, but it's in fictional form. And so I brought it back to them, and they really, really liked it and said, we should, have a go at this. And so here we are.
And here you are. And I was at a rehearsal just to get a sense of what's happening, what it's like last week. And I mean, you have an incredible cast. One of the, you know, some well-loved, familiar faces on the stage as well. Now, but in this case, you're not the home location for the theatre festival this year. It's Corner Brook, so you have to think of taking it on the road.
We do.
How does that impact what you're doing when it comes to staging?
Pretty much all of the centres on the island. We've traveled to provincial drama festivals for years. It's in its 75th year, the Newfoundland Provincial Festival is. So we are kind of used to doing that. I think sometimes you think less is more, or you try to simplify when you know you're going on the road. You won't build such a massive set or whatever, although we did last year and we went to Gander and it was quite a success. But, sometimes you'll think about that and how it will translate to a different stage. But pretty much all of the centres in the island are very similar, except St. John's is larger. But most of the stages are similar. So you just go and take it on the road, have a little bit of fun, do it for a theatre audience in Corner Brook, which is always fun because you're producing it for your peers, and people you've known for many, many years, and people you're meeting for the first time, but they all have that same passion that you do for live theatre. So it's a great environment to go and produce, especially a brand new play, premiere production,
Well, I was going to say, do any additional butterflies come with that for you? You and Dave Anthony are co-directing.
We are.
Yeah.
He is my eyes and ears, I told him. When we started this project, and he was so enthused, and he offered to direct it for me if I wanted him to. And I said, I've always directed my own work, and I do feel very connected to it. But wouldn't it be nice if we did it together so that I can approach it as a writer and from my perspective on, what I've written and what each scene means and the subtext and the content. But Dave can look at it with fresh new eyes and ears. He can look at it from the perspective of director, and if he read this piece, what does he see in this piece? What does he see in this scene? How can we bring out all the different dynamics of the scene? All the different levels that you get, especially in something that is essentially drama. So this is not a comedy. A lot of people think that Jam Toast and Orgasms is instantly going to be a comedy. It has humor. It has moments of levity. It has moments like in real life where we have to laugh at our situation. But at the same time, it's essentially more a story about love and forgiveness, the mistakes that we make, how we tackle them or overcome them, and how it all works out in the end. So there's a certain bit of mystery to the show as well. And I find that having Dave right there beside me, we've had a few chuckles in rehearsal. He keeps telling me he's going to slap me if I laugh too too loud.
You have a distinctive laugh.
I have a very distinctive laugh when I'm in the theater. Everybody who's on stage always says, I knew you were in the house tonight. So, you know, we have a few chuckles at rehearsal, and he just he's been fabulous because he just reminds me to step back from being so close to the work and to look at it from the perspective of someone producing the play and someone sitting in an audience watching the show.
And that is indeed the challenge when you're so close to a piece. So the 20 years and the involvement doesn't hurt at all. It
Not
truly,
at all.
That element of time
I
gives you...
feel, I'm in the right place to do this.
Yes.
The right time.
Yeah, and it is quite a bit of commitment. I briefly touched upon the cast, but maybe they're all seasoned performers, and I love the interactions between you, Dave, and them, but let's share who they are.
Well, Jocelyn and Scott Sims are a married couple, both teachers at EVH, and both very seasoned actors who graduated from the Grand Falls program, and they're fabulous. They're fabulous together. They've done wonderful performances in several of our shows in recent years, and it's just a joy to have them. And the whole dynamic of a husband and wife working together, learning their lines together, it's all very helpful to the process, because in community theater, we only have so much time. You know, people are working day jobs, and you only have a few hours here and there to rehearse. So having two seasoned actors who can feed off each other, fabulous. Then we have my dear Angela. I call her, she's rightly named because I call her Angel. So Angela Pittman, who works with me at Queen Street Dinner Theater, and we've had 8 years of me directing her in the shows at Queen Street, and those are, of course, always over-the-top comedies. So this is a really wonderful challenge for her, because she's doing a drama on the main stage instead of a musical-focused dinner theater. So it's a new challenge for her, but she's doing great. And we have two new to our club and new to the show. We have Karen Dewick, who is also a former teacher. And Karen is fabulous. She was in our Christmas show, and she's taken on a supporting role in this play, and she loves it. And we found a young man who walked in off the street, Brandon Power, and he's just fabulous. We were looking for a young actor in their 20s, and in he walked, and he's just a natural. He's so good.
It sounds like the stars are aligning for you and for
They
this
are.
production. Now, we want to see a great audience, because we are going to get to see this play on April 16th at the Gordon Pinsent Center of the Arts. We want to encourage people to come out. What are your words for them? I mean, this means everything to get you folks ready. And
It does. It does. Doing a show in your hometown prior to going to the festival is really what you need to get that jumping off point, and to get you focused and ready for the competitive side. Now, it's very friendly competition, mind you. We've been going to these festivals for years, and we all love each other's groups and each other's work. But you still want to have that edge, and you want to feel ready for performance in Corner Brook. So local audiences, we feed off them. They are our friends, our family, our co-workers, our loved ones. Their input and having them there means more than any other audience possibly could. So April 16th, opening night, Wednesday. It's a Wednesday night. It's a world premiere.
well, we do need to see audiences
and
coming
we need
out.
to see them coming out.
We want to remind them, and it's going to be a wonderful production, as they always are. And then you're off to the theater festival shortly after that in Corner Brook, and you
Yes.
are on closing night,
We
which is
are.
totally amazing. A very nice place to be presenting it there.
Yeah,
Shirley,
it's exciting.
It's very exciting, and I know you're busy with all these rehearsals, but thank you so much for coming in and sharing this. I am going to take a quick transition and break and let you look at some nice photographs of their production, and I'll be back to talk to David Anthony about his work on the play and community theater. Don't go away. Welcome back to Let's Get Writing. Dave Anthony, welcome.
Well, thank you.
We have our emotional support dogs here today.
Well, that's good. He's settled.
He has settled down. Well, it's just a nice energy having them here with us.
Oh,
Little
absolutely.
Salty and his daughter, Princess, making you feel at home.
Perfect.
Dave, I
Perfect.
want to get into the details. You are co-directors we've established with Shirley, and you are also the president of Northcliffe Drama Club.
Fancy title. The co-director is great. The president bit, yeah. We. It's been a few years since we've not changed positions. Put it that way. So it's kind of you become a general dog's body, general gopher for everybody with that title.
With that title?
With that title.
Well, it's been over 40 years your involvement with the club, and I feel if you weren't there, maybe we wouldn't even have a club because there were years of ebbing and flowing in community theater.
Yep, absolutely. We came back from Labrador in '83, and that was my first foray in the art, if you will, with Kevin Lewis and the boys from the Carroll Players and so on. So when we came, the call or the all call for guys, for men in particular, was a desperate plea. Can somebody please? Glenn Stroud, good friend at the time, and Warren Down, and a couple of the others were still there, but Brian Blackmore, I think, was probably one of the last directors before we came, and there was a need. So and we'd gotten the bug. I started in Lab City. Melinda, we had two little kids at the time. Melinda said, "Well, if you can't beat him, you got to join him." So it became a family thing, really, with the two of us, and eventually our children, and so on. Yeah. And, I can
Well,
go on and
I
on.
think what you're describing there is community theater at its best because it is meant to engage families, people, teachers, any number of people.
Absolutely. And when we came, as the kids got a little older, we didn't just leave them home, you know. And we, of course, you would do, like most people need to, but we had a real system going. Some of the people that joined around the same time we did had older kids. I think of Terry and Marilyn Dunford with their two teenage kids. And they were there. And what they would do is babysit, if you will, our younger ones and so on. Craig Gowdy's children, Shirley Morrow's children, and so on. So once again, yeah, arguably it became an extremely comfortable family affair.
Isn't that
Absolutely,
nice?
yeah.
And what is happening these days? Because there seems to be, I'm thinking of your Christmas play, there just seems to be a resurgence of interest in Northcliffe.
Absolutely. For a lot of the people that came around the time that we did, art, as in, you know, this is a major productive art community, art as in painting. And people say, like Craig Gowdy, who became extremely involved with the art program, and Robert Lodge, and so on and so on. Yeah, so a few people kind of shifted their focus to art versus the art of drama, if you want. And we kind of went through a little ebbs and flows, if you want, and there's been a couple of resurgence. But the last couple of years, and I might add as well that in the interim, we also had a small theatre company, if you will, that kind of ran adjacent. Fresh Start Theatre, Linda Nutio, Maxine, Melinda, and I. And but anyway, getting back to your question, yeah, we've had a great resurgence. This year, we had a cast of 20 in our Christmas show, and it was a bit of fluff, a Hallmark take, spoof, whatever, but a lot of, and interestingly enough, for us, a lot of young teachers who you know, and again, you know, through networking, they also are doing shows at their school, which is absolutely marvelous.
It's been lovely to see because the high school has been there with musicals over the past number of years, and I think a lot of that too would be in part to Jocelyn and Scott Sims being so active there.
Oh, absolutely, and Scott, they're both, again, as Shirley alluded to, graduates of Corner Brook, if you will, the drama school. But they're, Don Olford, another teacher, and again, it's teacher oriented with support from everybody else. I think it's presumed sometimes that teachers can just, you're dramatic, you're this, you're that. Maybe that's true, right?
Well, they're performing every day in the classroom.
Yeah, I mean,
to some degree.
To some degree, it's
Yes.
like a clergy. One of my Kim, our clergy person, if you will, you know, she said, listen, you know, people don't don't realize you stand there and it's like sometimes your stomach's up your throat and you got to prepare for this I'll call it performance with your spiel, and yeah, it's there definitely in spades.
But it's so good to see. Now, how is this I'm taking advantage of the opportunity. How is this co-directing experience going for you? We heard Shirley's take on it, but now we'll hear yours.
It's great. A couple of shows past, Mary Kelly and I co-directed, and it was great. And Mary's been involved for a long time as well. It's good. Shirley, I'll joke about it, but it's true. She's got this infectious laugh. I mean, some people would say Shirley Morrow was in the theater somewhere because she laughs.
We've heard.
We've heard. Everybody knows that. So anyway, she looked at me and said, co-director. And I said, okay, well, you know, we kind of laid down a few parameters, if you will. I said, you're going to be coming at this from a writer's point of view. And if I were to say she's made 50 changes in the last month and a half, you know, that's what she's done. But I'm listening, and some of it I see slightly differently. You know, it's, as she alluded to or referenced, it's not a comedy. It's got comedic moments, but certainly a very serious play about forgiveness, and it goes on and getting your life together. But there's certain times when I see certain scenes that are fairly lengthy, for example, and I want to have, say, Scott and Jocelyn in some of their moments, play it a little faster, or build into your emotion, whatever it happens to be. You know, let's not play the sentiment quite so prominently, if you want, and build it into the play, build towards it, and sometimes sure, well, but maybe that's what we'll do. And we agree to balance. I'm not going to say agree to disagree. So far, knock on wood, there's been no disagreement.
But it's nice to have that teamwork, that balance, especially certainly for Shirley as it's her play.
Oh, absolutely.
And to have that kind of feedback.
Yeah.
For people who are out there wondering, well, I'd like to get involved. I wonder what Northcliffe, how do I get involved? Do they want me? Let's break the ice and tell them what they can do.
Well, again, our number is in the phone book. It's been forevermore. Look it up, Dave.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's there. No,
Who
really.
has a phone book, Dave?
I know who's got a phone book, who's got a landline, but it's there.
It's
you know?
there.
And we put our cell number out there and so on, and we've got a little our page. You know, you look it up.
Facebook page.
Facebook page, Northcliffe Drama Club whatever it is. And yeah, people call, or you. Here's what's crazy, Kathryn. You meet people in the store, and they'll say, "What's on the go?" You know, and some people have just said, you know, I'll tell you what it's like. It's like a bit of a wall that people think you've got to be, I don't know, a certain pedigree, a certain social status, or a certain experience. You don't, you know, and so our mantra basically is out there, which states, come one, come all, try it. Shirley referenced again, I was listening a little while ago, some new people this year. Well, we've got this young guy who's got a day job, night job, whatever, and just happened to hear one of his friends or whatever, I'll say, mention this, and I think I'll try it. And what's interesting there, we were trying to place this guy. You know, you're local, you try to see. And I asked him one day, I'll share this quickly. I said, who's your I said, no, never mind.
Here we go.
I said,
Good Newfoundland.
Yep, who's your grandfather? Because I said, look at me, you know. And he laughed, and he said the grandfather didn't mean anything. Anyway, that night, Shirley and I were going through some notes and whatever. And I said, just go and try to scroll, you know, troll, whatever, face him. Try to see if we can find him. We found his dad's, and it came up, here's the name of his father. Now, I won't get into all the detail. And I said, oh my God. And Shirley said, what's wrong? I said, nothing. But I taught this young man's dad back 20 odd years ago. So there's that kind of, you know.
Yeah, that's community theater.
Community.
Yeah.
Here this boy is. I said, now, do your dad know your lines yet? You know, so can't wait to talk to him. Kind of thing, to get an appraisal of his boy.
Well, you certainly will get the chance on April 16th. I want to remind people again, because that's going to be your debut.
That's the debut, and for Shirley, it is something special. you know, and some of your crowd, if you will, going back to when you guys went to school. Jeff's already reached out with a lovely note of encouragement.
That would be Jeff Pitcher.
Jeff Pitcher, whose notoriety, I mean, Newfoundland Labrador is just legendary.
Well, he was on the West Coast up in
Cowhead.
Cowhead, exactly, for years.
Jeff, local guy, and you guys were all part of the same bunch of theatre people back in the day. So she's looking forward to that, and tickets are being sold already, which is, well, I'll reference back to Christmas. We had a full house.
Yes. So
we're kind of capitalizing on that, but also the fact that she wrote it.
yeah, and we want to remind people to get their tickets early and get those nice seats and get in there and support community theatre.
Absolutely.
And again, so you did say you're on Facebook, so people can start there.
Yeah.
And they can message you if they're interested.
Absolutely.
One of the best things they can do would be to go to the show.
Go to the show. You know what's interesting? A lot of people, I mean, this town's full of activities for children. You know, the dance company, the gymnastics, you name it, blah, blah. And a number of things for adults as well. But a lot of people don't, I don't know, they don't take advantage of it for some reason. And like you referenced the school musicals, like we were at the show last week before. There were people there that were never there before. Yeah, and it's just so good to see it.
Wow. Well,
So
we're doing our part to let
We
them know.
are
I'm going to
indeed.
remind them again, the 16th of, I wanted to say June, the 16th of April
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
the night to see the play. So thank you so much for joining me and for being part of the audience of Let's Get Writing, and we're bringing you theater this show. And thank you so much for being part of